In this video, I'm going to look at the rear master cylinder for the rear brake on my T140V Bonneville. It's a reimported back from America. I keep saying this, don't I? I'm turning it into a resto mod desert sled. Still looks like, you know, a desert sled from the past, but has got a few more modern tweaks to it. Triumph must have had a real challenge fitting a rear disc brake to this bike, because the way that they put the rear master cylinder together and how it's mounted, it's a bit like one of those, I think they call them Chinese puzzles, where the intricate pieces need to go together in exactly the right order for it to come together and work. I'll have a look at it on the bench first, and then we'll get the back wheel out of my rolling chassis, which I put together last time, and give us a bit of room to actually put it in. In getting my head around this, I've actually put together all of what I think are the parts for the master cylinder to be mounted. There are actually two plates. This one's an engine plate, but this main sort of fitting, I can't call it a bolt, I don't know what it is, it's got a hollow in the middle, goes through this to actually mount onto the actuation arm for the master cylinder and the pedal. And as part of this mechanism here, it's held on by the footrest, so you've got the footrest involved. It is fairly complex. The hardest thing I've found in the past is getting this spring on. So you've got these two plates, you've got the master cylinder itself, which in the parts diagram I think is actually shown with it twisted the other way around, so you've got a gap here. And I know they used to use spacers in the past. What I'll do now, I'll strip this down so that it's in the constituent parts, get the back wheel off the bike, and we'll see about putting it on. I know this spring can be a real nuisance. I expected that to push off. Now I'm going to have to fiddle it about a bit so that I don't do that. What I don't want to do is hurt myself on camera. I think I've got the idea. There we go. Off it comes. It wasn't such a big deal. Before we go any further, what you need to end up with is this part the right way around, with that to the top, with any play taken out of that. Now, to help you do that, there is a notch, and this notch eventually needs to line up with this Allen screw. So what you do, you feel for play, you screw it in until you can feel all the plays gone. That's about it, I think. Yeah, bit of play, no play. Then you keep going in the same direction until this notch lines up. So you've got to make sure you've got this the right way around, this to the top, and the notch lined up. Then the next thing I'll do is I'll whip that out, put a little bit of thread lock on and tighten it in. So that's the master cylinder set up, ready to go onto the bracket. The next thing to check is the gap here has got to be between 8.9 and 9.4 millimeters. Seems a bit tight. So it's at 9.08. So I need to tighten that down and make sure that that locks up against it. With them tightened now, zero that. And there we go, got 9.04, which nicely fits between 8.9 and 9.4 millimeters. Next I'll put the little rubber boot back on. That goes over there, and there we go. So that's all ready to go now. The next thing I'm going to do is attach this bracket to it. Now it's interesting, these are shallow heads to these bolts, so you need to make sure you've got the right ones, because otherwise there's no clearance. I think I can fit these thin washers in. I might find I have to take them back out and remove them afterwards in case there's just not quite enough clearance. And on the other side I'm having a washer, a lock washer, and I'll tighten the nuts down. I haven't actually got a torque spec for this. I've had to just trim that washer slightly because it wouldn't fit into the space otherwise. I haven't got a torque spec, but as long as you've crimped down the lock washer really well, I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. This bracket mounts here, and it's held in by, at one end, the footrest bolt, and at the other there is a bolt that goes through there. I may have to trim this eventually, so let's just put the footrest one on first. They'll hold it in place, and then next I'm going to put on this engine plate, because this part goes through there, screws into the plate at the back. There we go. Next I'll put in the bolts for the engine mounting plate. Now this one is sandwiched between the two plates, so I'm going to have to turn you off and have a quick look for myself. The next thing is I'm going to try to put this arm on and the spring, and it's the spring that's a bit of a nuisance. So the arm will go on here, but the problem I've got is that the arm will want to go through the bolt for this, so I'm going to remove that again. I use it to position it and I didn't tighten it up, so I'm going to remove that just so that I can get this spring on and this arm. Now with the footrest out of the way, that bit hooks over there and that bit hooks into there. Now I'm not overly happy about where this spring goes, but I'll worry about that later. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the foot brake rod in, connect it to this so that I can use it to bring it down here to connect onto the end of the master cylinder. Next, I'm just going to put this on here so I can use it for leverage. So I've got to get it on far enough so that and I'm putting it in the air because obviously when it's braking it'll be down here somewhere. So the next thing is to connect this part to the actuating rod of the master cylinder, and to do that I'll use the brake lever to bring it down, line it up, oh, and we're in. And we'll screw this one on this side. We're not fully lined up yet, but I'm sure we will be. So So now I've got it so that that will definitely actuate the rear brake. That's as far as I'm going today. I've got it on, I've got the wheel back on, there's plenty of clearance. I know there are still things to tighten up. It's a really weird mechanism, and it really is funny the way that you put this bit on before that bit, before the other bit. It doesn't ever seem to fit properly. I have done them before and ever completely reconditioned master cylinders at the back before. I never remember how it all goes, and it's always like feeling your way. I hope that's been useful to you. Thing to remember is there's only less than 9mm or so of play actually on the push rod, so this is only going to move a certain amount wherever it is. Once I've got the bike sorted out, I'll use the 2 nuts on either side of that arm to adjust where this sits. Yeah, the likelihood is it'll sit where it bloody wants to, but we'll see. Anyway, if it's been useful, give us a like. Look at the comments, because I will, because you never know, it might be I've just done something slightly the wrong way around. At some point in the future, I will be plumbing this up and putting a caliper on here. I'm still considering what I might do about the caliper at the back at the moment. So it's definitely worth, following this if you're doing the same kind of thing and having the same kind of problems. Thank you very much for watching.